Pilots pay $60,000 for glass cockpits that promise safety and status. Then a single glitch can erase every instrument in flight, turning that luxury panel into a $20,000 paperweight and grounding the airplane for months. Meanwhile, old-school mechanics bet on steam gauges, clunky, repairable, and nearly unkillable. The result is aviation divided between those dazzled by technology and those haunted by what it costs to trust it. Is modernization in the cockpit really progress, or have we built a high-price trap nobody wants to talk about? Let us pull back the curtain. The moment you open the door on a brand new Cirrus or a freshly retrofitted Cessna, the message is clear. This is not just an airplane, it is a status symbol. The avionics screens glow like a luxury watch display case at midnight. Garmin's G1000 isn't sold as a tool, it's a lifestyle upgrade. The sales pitch sounds like a high-end auto showroom, sleek lines, sculpted glass, a dashboard that could pass for a Tesla. Buyers don't just want to fly, they want to be seen flying the future. It is the same psychology that sells German sedans and designer handbags. The right panel turns a $200,000 airplane into a $500,000 Instagram post. Pilots eat it up. They boast about synthetic vision, traffic overlays, and terrain shading the way car guys brag about horsepower or 0 to 60 times. The more screens, the more prestige. Every aviation magazine cover and every YouTube ad feeds the fantasy. Fly safer, fly smarter, fly glass. The promise is irresistible. More information, more automation, more control. The reality is, a full retrofit runs $30,000 to $60,000 before you even start flying. That price tag does not scare off the buyers who want their names on the hangar sign and their panels glowing in group chats. The real hook is not safety or reliability, it is envy. A glass cockpit says you have arrived. It whispers that you are a serious pilot, a player, a tech insider. Nobody posts selfies with a vacuum gauge. A selfie with a G1000, that is worth 1,000 likes. In the world of private aviation, image sells faster than logic, and the industry knows it. Pilots will tell you they want information, lots of it. They want to know wind speed, traffic, terrain, oil temperature, cylinder head temperature, fuel flow, and the weather 3 states over, all at once. The glass cockpit feeds that appetite. You get a dashboard that feels like mission control, and every number is just a swipe away. For many, flying without that stream of data feels like driving blindfolded. It is not just comfort, it is addiction. Once you have flown with real-time weather overlays and synthetic vision, giving it up is like handing back your smartphone and picking up a rotary phone. After the year 2000, aviation became a race for more screens, more data, more automation. Owners lined up for retrofits, convinced that more information meant more safety. The market for glass panels spiked not just in new Cirruses, but in 1970s Cessnas and Bonanzas. The promise was simple: install a computer in your panel and you will never feel lost again. By 2010, the retrofit market was booming, driven by a fear of missing out on the next big thing in cockpit tech. But here is the twist. The very thing that makes glass irresistible is what makes it disposable. Think about it. A Rolex from 1970 still keeps perfect time. An iPhone from 2010 is a paperweight. Old-school steam gauges are mechanical heirlooms. They outlast their owners. Glass panels are consumer electronics, built for a product cycle, not a lifetime. The comfort of having every bit of data at your fingertips comes with an expiration date. Talk to any owner who has spent a few years behind a glass panel. They will admit it. The thought of flying without all that information is terrifying. The panel becomes a crutch. Lose the data and you lose your nerve. The industry counts on that. That is how they sell upgrades, year after year. It is not just a cockpit anymore, it is a subscription service you never knew you signed up for. Analog panels and glass cockpits do not just look different, they speak different languages. In a classic steam gauge setup, each instrument is its own little machine. The attitude indicator, heading gyro, and turn coordinator all spin on their own bearings. powered by a vacuum pump drawing air through a maze of hoses behind the panel. Lose the pump and you lose 2 gyros. But the airspeed, altimeter, and vertical speed keep ticking, fed by the pitot static system. Every gauge is a self-contained island. If one goes dark, the rest do not even notice. Now walk over to a modern glass cockpit, say a Garmin G1000, Avidyne Integra, or Dynon Skyview. Here, everything flows through a central nervous system. Sensors like the AHRS, the Attitude Heading Reference System, sit in a sealed box using accelerometers, gyros, and magnetometers to figure out which way is up. Air data computers measure pressure for altitude and speed. All this information is funneled through a data bus and then painted on a pair of bright screens, the primary flight display and the multifunction display. If the AHRS or the main bus hiccups, the entire suite can go blank in a heartbeat. That is not just a lost gauge, it is a black hole where your entire instrument scan used to be. Garmin, Avidyne, and Dynon all promise reliability with mean time between failure numbers that sound impressive. But architecture is the key. Steam systems are modular, with failure isolated to 1 or 2 instruments. Glass is integrated, and one failure can wipe out everything at once. The shop foreman knows what is inside these boxes. Open a steam gauge and you will find brass gears and tiny screws, parts you can actually replace. Crack open a G1000 module and you are looking at potted electronics, proprietary boards, and a sticker that says, "No user serviceable parts." That is the real difference. Steam gauges are built to be fixed. Glass is built to be swapped. One is a Swiss watch. The other is an iPad glued shut. The risk is not just technical, it is structural. When all your flight data depends on a single computer, a glitch is not just annoying, it is a system-wide event. The first sign of trouble is subtle, a flicker, a hesitation, maybe a warning chime that barely registers. Then, in a split second, the entire display goes dark. Where there should be a horizon, a compass, and airspeed, there is only a giant red X across the screen. This is not a hypothetical. It is a real scenario that has played out in Cirrus SR-22s, Cessna 182s, and more than a few Bonanzas. The culprit is almost always the same, a fault in the AHRS, the Attitude Heading Reference System. One box, buried behind the panel, decides it cannot trust its sensors. The result, every ounce of situational awareness vanishes at once. In instrument conditions, clouds, rain, night, this is not just inconvenient. It is a gut punch. The startle response hits hard. Pilots trained to trust the screen freeze for those first few seconds, staring at the red X, hoping it is a glitch. But the system is dead. The autopilot disconnects. The Magenta Line disappears. The synthetic vision, the traffic, the terrain, gone. All that is left is a black hole where your world used to be. Manufacturers like to talk about backups. They point to the tiny analog attitude indicator, maybe the old airspeed and altimeter, somewhere low on the panel or hidden by a yoke. But in the heat of a failure, those backups might as well be in the baggage compartment. Most owners have not looked at them in years. They are smaller, harder to see, and sometimes powered by the same electrical bus that just failed. In more than one NTSB report, pilots lost precious seconds or minutes trying to process what just happened, all while the airplane kept flying blind. This is the nightmare scenario for any mechanic who has seen the aftermath. Steam gauges fail one at a time. Glass fails all at once. When your entire flight display is erased by a single sensor fault, the only thing left between you and the ground is muscle memory and whatever backup gauge you can find in the dark. The red X is not just a warning, it is a test, and not everyone passes. In the shop, the numbers do not lie. A steam gauge gyro goes wobbly, that is a $300 bill and a couple of hours with a screwdriver. Bearings, a bit of calibration, maybe a new faceplate if you are picky. Most shops can turn it around in a weekend. You are back in the air before your oil has time to cool. Now let us talk glass. The moment a Garmin G1000 screen flickers or an AHRS throws a fault, the repair conversation stops cold. There is no opening the box, no swapping a gear, no cleaning a contact. The only option is to pull the whole unit and ship it to an authorized service center if you are lucky enough to find one with a slot. The invoice starts at $15,000, sometimes closer to $20,000, and that is if the part is in stock. Most times it is not. Lead times stretch to 6, 8, even 12 weeks. Your plane sits, collecting dust and hangar rent, while the shop waits for a proprietary module that is sealed tighter than a bank vault. There is no patching a blown backlight, no soldering a loose pin. The backlight alone on some early glass panels is integrated into the entire display. When it fails, you buy a new screen. On a steam gauge, a burnt bulb costs 50 cents and 5 minutes. On glass, it becomes the world's most expensive light bulb. Owners who thought they were buying into the future end up staring at an invoice that could pay for a new engine. That is not progress, it is extortion wrapped in glass. The real gut punch lands with a letter. It is one that every glass cockpit owner dreads. It arrives stamped with a manufacturer's logo, full of polite corporate language, but the message is always the same. Your avionics are no longer supported. The part that failed is not just back-ordered, it is extinct. The factory has moved on, the chips are out of production, and the software updates stopped years ago. What was cutting-edge tech 15 years ago is now abandoned, and so is your airplane. Owners learn quickly that unsupported means grounded. A $500,000 plane sits idle for 6, 8, sometimes 12 weeks, while shops hunt for a replacement unit that may never come. The downtime is not measured in days, it is measured in lost trips, missed family events, and hangar rent piling up. The service center shrugs, the dealer blames the factory blames the supply chain, but the owner is the one stuck paying insurance on a plane that cannot even taxi. There is no workaround, you cannot pull out a soldering iron or order a generic part. The module is sealed, the schematics are locked away, and the only fix is a new unit, if you are lucky enough to find one. Some owners have waited months, only to be told their only option is a full panel upgrade, another $50,000 sunk into a plane that already cost more than most houses. The promise of flying the future turns into a waiting game, with no end in sight and no one to call except a lawyer. The dream of glass ends with a redacted letter and a grounded airplane. A veteran instructor sits in the right seat of a G1000 equipped Cessna, arms folded, watching as the student follows the Magenta Line across Kansas. The screens do everything. They map the route, flag traffic, and even call out terrain. The student's eyes barely leave the glass. When the instructor quietly reaches down and turns off the primary flight display, the reaction is instant panic. The student freezes, hands hovering, eyes darting. Years of button pushing and checklist following, but now, with the synthetic horizon gone, it is as if the wings have vanished too. This is not a rare story. Flight schools across the country see it every week. Pilots trained on glass panels lose their edge. The scan, the rhythm of checking airspeed, attitude, altitude, heading, and vertical speed shrinks to a single screen. When that screen fails, the mind stalls. Mode confusion sets in. Is it the attitude heading reference system? Is it the air data computer? Is the data wrong, or is the system just rebooting? In those first critical seconds, the brain chases software instead of flying the airplane. Studies show pilots flying glass spend less time hand flying and more time managing menus. They trust the automation even when it is wrong. The startle response, the jolt of fear when the world goes dark, hits harder than any vacuum pump failure ever did. Backup instruments are ignored, sometimes unreadable, sometimes forgotten. The result is a generation of pilots who can brief a GPS approach but stumble when the screens go black. The instructor shakes his head. This is what happens when you let the computer fly the plane. Owners who want the best of both worlds have a simple formula. Keep the steam gauges for flying and bolt a tablet to the yoke for everything else. The iPad does not care what panel you have. It updates itself, costs less than $500 to replace, and if it dies, you toss it in your flight bag and pick up a new one at the Apple Store. No waiting for parts, no service center runaround, no invoices that look like a car down payment. Before you sign off on any panel upgrade or a new-to-you airplane, there is a 5-question checklist every owner should run through. These are the questions the smart mechanic asks before a dollar changes hands. 1. How long will the manufacturer actually support this panel? Will you be able to get parts and repairs in 10 years? 2. What is the real-world failure rate for the main computer or display? Not the marketing number, the one mechanics see in the shop. 3. If something breaks, can it be fixed in the field, or does it have to be shipped off to a factory in another state? 4. When the screen goes dark, how much will it cost, and how long will the plane sit waiting for a replacement? 5. If the glass fails, do you still have usable Steam backups, or are you flying blind? Run down that list before you write a check. The difference between a flying airplane and a hangar queen comes down to those 5 answers. Every year, avionics manufacturers discontinue support for another system, grounding aircraft that still fly perfectly. As aviation keeps chasing the latest screen, owners face a future where repair means replacement or surrender. The real question isn't about nostalgia versus progress, but about who controls the sky when technology ages out before the airframe. In this race, durability isn't old-fashioned, it's survival. Let's hear where you stand in the comments below.